From the News Channel 5 Network and AARP, this is AARP Connected.
It's a great day to be connected. Hi, I'm your host, Mia McNeil, and welcome to AARP Connected. I'm glad you've tuned in. We've got a great show in store for you. As you know, during each episode of AARP Connected, we explore important issues that empower you to choose how you live as you age. We all know the old saying, only two things are certain, death and taxes. Fortunately, there's one more thing you can count on, the AARP Foundation Tax Aide program. In a few minutes, we'll be joined by Emily Paul, the state coordinator for the AARP Foundation Tax Aide program, and she will share some exciting tips, resources, and how to get your taxes done for free. But before we get into that conversation, let's kick things off with the segment we call Things You Need to Know.
Everything from what you eat to how often you text can affect the health of your joints. Here are 3 horrible habits for your joints you need to know about. If you're a smoker, stop now. Smoking does a number on your joints. The nicotine in cigarettes narrows blood vessels and restricts the amount of oxygen and nutrients that reach the joint cartilage. If you are sedentary, get moving. Frequent sitting leads to tightness in the hips and legs and weakness of core stabilizing muscles. Aim for 30 minutes of joint-friendly exercise 5 days a week, such as walking, water aerobics, and swimming. Stop texting and put your phone down. Constant typing on that mini keyboard creates inflammation of the joints in your hands and arms, which can lead to pain and stiffness. To avoid joint pain, take breaks and consider relying on the speech-to-text function on your smartphone. For more health tips, go to aarp.org/health.
Ads on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok can be creative and enticing, but they can sometimes be deceptive. Here are 4 ways to shop wisely on social media to get your money's worth. Check to see if the company is legitimate. Look for a physical address and phone number. If there's no address on the company's website, think twice about buying anything. Read the fine print. Look for spelling errors and odd disclaimers. Also, make sure they allow at least 30 days to make a return. Do your research. Do a search with the name of the company and the words fraud, complaint, or scam after it. Use other consumers' experiences to guide yours. And pay with a credit card. You can dispute charges and potentially get your money back if the item never comes or you're not satisfied and the company doesn't help you resolve your issue. For more tips, go to aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork.
And before we bring in our guest today, I wanted to take a moment to share some information about how AARP is making an impact on lives through what we call advocacy. Although you probably know AARP is a nonpartisan organization, meaning we never endorse or donate to political parties or candidates, we do take a stance on issues that affect people 50 plus and their families. Here's what we're working on. You've probably heard a lot about Social Security recently. You know, the money that comes out of your paycheck to contribute to your retirement. Well, we are working with members of Congress to protect it for you and for future generations. After all, it's your money, you earned it. We are also building momentum to better support caregivers. Just in Tennessee, nearly 1 million unpaid family caregivers are spending on average $7,200 out of pocket for loved ones. The Credit for Caregivers Act will provide an income tax credit for those who provide this important service, which helps people age in their home and reduce the burden on publicly funded care facilities. We're also busy at the Tennessee General Assembly. Our AARP Tennessee team of staff and volunteer advocates regularly meet with legislators to talk about how to improve care for the elderly and disabled, how to make it easier for folks to age in place, and how to create opportunities for Tennesseans to save for their retirement years. They say there's power in numbers, and the 50-plus population is the largest voting bloc. So visit AARP aarp.org/TNAction to learn more and add your name to our petitions so your voice is heard by our lawmakers. Now, let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Emily Paul, State Coordinator for the AARP Foundation Tax Aide program, and she'll share some tax information you won't want to miss. Come on back. Well, welcome back to AARP Connected. There are few people I know who are excited about tax season, but my next guest is one of them because it's an opportunity to help people. Emily Paul is the Tennessee State Coordinator for the AARP Foundation's Tax Aide program. Emily, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. I know this is a busy time of the year for you.
It is, but thank you for the invitation.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's jump in. First off, tell me about the AARP Tax Aide program.
Well, the AARP Foundation Tax Aide program is the nation's largest free, volunteer-run tax preparation and assistance program. We do offer free tax preparation to anyone. There's no age limit in there, but our focus is on low income over 50. We offer different tax preparation options. Not all options are available at all sites. We have some sites that run what we call a drop-off model, where you come in and you drop your tax documents off, and then your return is prepared and you return to review it. We also offer some virtual options where you actually do your own taxes. You can either do your own taxes without help or do your own taxes with guidance from a certified counselor. So we do offer various things to try to appeal to everyone.
Yeah. So when you answered a little bit earlier, you said it was the largest. What does largest mean?
Well, during the 2024 tax season, the AARP Tax Aide program had over 28,000 volunteers in 3,500 different communities. Just in Tennessee, we had 330 plus volunteers and almost 50 sites located throughout the state, in big cities and in small towns both.
Mm-hmm. We were chatting a little earlier about your background. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I, like many of the AARP volunteers, surprisingly enough, I'm not a tax prep person when I went into it. I am not an accountant. I'm an engineer, which is kind of the typical volunteer, or the majority of the tax aid volunteers are engineers. I mentioned I'm an engineer. I got to be involved with the program. My mother was starting to struggle a little bit with dementia and things like that. And my brother, who was her caregiver, I was very interested to hear about your caregiver pieces, because he did a lot of unpaid caregiving there. He said, "Mom has not filed her taxes yet, and this is September." So I went back into her back bedroom where she kept all of her papers, and I see all these AARP tax aid envelopes. And I was like, oh, I bet I could do that. I was newly retired, so it was like, oh, this could be a really good fit for me. So I got her taxes straightened out with help from our state coordinator at the time, because she was in Alabama and obviously I'm in Tennessee, but she helped me work with the people in Alabama to get those taxes finished. So I think it's a great program. We love our volunteers, and we love our taxpayers too.
Wow, that is fantastic. So in your experience in working with the tax aid program, what are some common mistakes people make in filing their taxes?
Both with our volunteers and with people who are doing their own taxes, typing errors are probably the most common mistake, where the form asks for an employer identification number. If you type it wrong, it doesn't match the IRS database. Therefore, when you file it electronically, it comes back to you and you're like, I don't know what I did wrong, but we can help you there. The other big thing, particularly with taxpayers that are doing their own taxes is not really understanding the credits that they do qualify for. Okay. And we want to make sure everyone, that's one of our big pushes, is making sure everyone gets the credits that they need.
Mm-hmm. Right, wow. So how can folks sign up for a tax preparation session? Because all of this sounds great. I'm ready to jump on it myself. So how could I sign up?
Well, the easiest way is to probably type free tax help near me and maybe put AARP in there, and you'll get the AARP site finder. And what it'll be, it'll have you enter your zip code in, and then it'll give you a list of tax prep sites within 50 miles or 20 miles or whatever service you may be. I tested it this morning to make sure that my site had been turned on and was working correctly, because we have had issues where a site didn't click the little box that makes their site show up, and they're wondering why we're not getting any appointments. And I said, well, check that box and make sure that you've got it. But it's very easy to do. You can, at some of the sites you can sign up online. At some of the sites you just call a phone number. At some sites you can do both. So,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if I've signed up for an appointment, kind of walk me through the process. What does that look like?
Well, at most of our sites, we ask the taxpayer to come in and pick up what we call a packet, which is a large envelope where you can put all your tax documents, and it has our intake sheet in it. And the intake sheet will ask you the basic information: name, address, phone numbers, are you married, when were you married, are you widowed, are you a widow or widower, when did that happen, any dependents living in the house. And then it'll ask questions about your income. What kinds of income do you have? And then it'll ask questions about expenses or deductions. What kind of deductions do you have? And it's very easy to follow. After that, there's some demographic questions, and we ask everyone to complete the demographic questions because that is a big source of funding for us. This is a free program. Obviously, we have paper, we have printers, we have computers. All of this are provided for our volunteers, but it takes grants in order for us to be able to use those. So we have questions about your household, and then we have 3 different consent forms. The first consent form asks about carry forward data. Do you want your information to remain in the system? And this is your basic information: your name, your address, your filing status, as well as what types of income you had. So it won't say you received $13,200 from Social Security, but it will say you had a statement from Social Security, and one from this retirement, and one from this bank. Mm-hmm. And it helps us, particularly as people age, to ask questions as we go forward. You had this last year, do you have it again this year, or did something change?
Great. And what about residency? Do you have to be a Tennessee resident in order to participate?
You do not. And in some of our bordering states, in the Chattanooga district, we train in Georgia. I'm from the Chattanooga district, you can tell. In the Nashville district, several of the sites train in Kentucky because they're up by the Kentucky line. In the Memphis area, they train in both Mississippi and Arkansas, so that we can help people that live in the area but work in a different state.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with Emily and learn a lot more about the AARP Foundation Tax Aide program. Come on back. Well, welcome back to AARP Connected. We are joined today by Emily Paul, the state coordinator for AARP Foundation's Tax Aide program. So, Emily, we were talking a little bit about the program before we went to break. Talk to me about the folks who insist on doing their own taxes. Our online services and apps, are those safe to use, and what are some things people should look out for?
Typically, most online services from a reputable company are going to be perfectly safe. The vulnerability is in your connection to the network. So standard electronic security measures, things like don't use the computer at Starbucks, don't make sure you have a secure network. If you're at the library, you need to clear your browser and all that electronic stuff that I'm not quite as good with. Make sure your home network is secure, that your password on your home network is not password or 123 or anything like that. But there are a lot of programs out there, and they're typically safe to use.
Yeah, I'm sure that you've seen a lot in the tax aid program. Talk to me about what happens if I have a really complicated tax situation. Can I still set up an appointment with you guys?
It depends on the situation itself. We do have scope limitations. We don't handle rental property. Now, rental land is okay, but if there are any improvements like rental houses or anything like that, we're not able to do that. We can't do farm income. You know, there's a list. But at all your AARP sites, there's a list of what the scope is when you walk in. If you have a question about it, go into the site and ask. You know, they're perfectly willing to tell you whether or not they'll be able to do your taxes.
And what about a person who needs to file an extension? Is that something that you all do?
Yes, we definitely do extensions. That's no problem at all. We'll also do prior year taxes as long as we have 2 certified volunteers in that site that are certified in those years. In my site, we can only go back 3 years because I've been there longer than 3 years, but my next volunteer has not. So we could go back 3 years, but that's it.
Oh, great. So you do back taxes.
We do.
We're able to do that.
We had a situation in the Nashville area last year where someone needed 5 or 6 years of back taxes done, and we had 2 counselors that were certified in those years that actually went back, sat down with them with all their documents and prepared all those returns and helped them get them ready.
Wow, wow. Okay, so how can our viewers get involved with the tax aid program? How can they volunteer?
We love volunteers, so if you just go to the AARP website and click on the volunteer button, you can get right in there. Someone will contact you, and don't do like I do and ignore their call, because it's only October. They can't possibly be wanting me to ask me about taxes yet. So my poor district coordinator had to leave 3 or 4 messages before I finally responded. And it's like, oh yeah, I want to do that. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay, and you talked about having an engineering background. So do you need to have an accounting or tax background?
You do not need an accounting background. You don't need a tax background. You really, if you've done your taxes at home, you can probably do taxes with us. We also have all kinds of other roles that are not tax prep roles. We need people to greet our taxpayers, to help them with their paperwork. We would love to have in all areas of the state someone to help with publicity for sites that need help getting taxpayers in. We don't have a lot of sites like that, but we have some, and also to help us recruit volunteers.
Wow. So you've done this for a little bit. What is your favorite part of this work?
Oh, my very favorite part is the little, and typically it's a widow, although sometimes a widower, who is coming in, their spouse died the previous year, sometimes the previous month. They've never done anything with the taxes before, the other spouse, and they'll just be in tears, sitting there, you know, they don't know what they're doing, they're just scared to death, and just to be able to kind of comfort them and say, look, we know what to do, we know what's going on, we'll be glad to help you. And they are so thankful and so grateful when you finish.
That is fantastic. Well, for our viewers, one more time, can you give them the way they can volunteer and that website so they can sign up?
It's the standard AARP website, so just, or search AARP volunteer, and just the screens come up and you just put your information in.
Fantastic. Emily, thanks for joining us today. And I know you mentioned you had maybe 45 to 50 sites in Tennessee, so everyone should be able to have a chance to get in, right?
Yes, we have a couple of swaths of Tennessee where we don't have sites typically South of I-40 on the west side of the state, and really north of I-40, we have a site in Martin, but that's about it.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for joining. I'm actually pretty excited for the first time in my life about tax season, so thanks for what you do. So we have been just inundated with wonderful information. It has been a fantastic show, and I hope our viewers are already online making their tax preparation appointments. Now, if you'd like to connect with AARP, we've got some fun community events coming up. We've got several events, so be on the lookout. We're hosting a Scam Jam to fight fraud in Knoxville, and we're planning several free shredding events in communities across the state. It's all free and no AARP membership is required. Find out more about aarp.org/TN. Stay in the know on all of the latest AARP is doing in Tennessee. Connect with us on any of these popular social media sites. And if you enjoy podcasts, we will have a podcast version of each episode available wherever you download your favorite podcast content. Just hit subscribe and get notifications when new episodes are available. Well, that is all the time we have today. I hope you found our discussion informative and valuable. I'm Mia McNeil, and thanks for being connected.